As the saying goes, better late than never. And that is exactly what has happened for Ukraine these days. After months of parliamentary deadlock, the United States Congress has finally approved a massive economic aid package, which President Joe Biden has already signed into law. And it's no small deal. This package amounts to the astronomical figure of $95 billion. How much money is that? To give you an idea, it's equivalent to just over the entire military budget of India in 2023. This multi-billion-dollar package, aimed at Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, comes at a geopolitically tense moment where Iran has attacked Israel, Russia consolidates its gains and continues advancing territory in Ukraine, and China has virtually made public its effort to assist Russia in its war against Ukraine. This agreement, which has overcome months of political stalemate and obstruction in Congress, represents more than just a large checkbook. It's a way of sending a message that the United States is not willing to abandon its allies, well, at least for now. In this video, we're going to explore in detail the distribution of these funds and the capabilities they provide to the US government. We'll understand why, after nearly 6 months of political blockade, this package was finally approved with a sudden shift in political support, including from some Republicans who initially blocked it. What is the strategy behind this mega check? What does this mean for the wars in Ukraine and Israel? That's what we'll look at today. Without further ado, let's get started. At last, Daddy USA has signed the checkbook. After nearly 6 months of deadlock, Democrats and Republicans finally agreed to approve extraordinary economic aid. Now, how much will each country receive, and what powers does this new law grant the US government? Let's take a look. This massive package of $95 billion is actually composed of 4 different bills. Consequently, each country has received its own bill. In the case of Ukraine, as we expected, it is the main beneficiary with an approximate $60 billion, absorbing 65% of the total package approved by the US Congress. But does all this money go directly to Ukraine? The answer is no. Of these $60 billion, only about $50 billion is military aid and is actually channeled through the US Department of Defense. This means that these funds are allocated to the Department of Defense as an additional budget, which then coordinates the delivery of arms and other direct support to Ukraine. The process of delivering arms by the Department of Defense involves several stages, from the approval of funds by Congress to their specific implementation, which can include the purchase of equipment, its transportation, and final delivery. So this process can actually take months. President Biden, not wanting to waste time, had already advanced what would need to be delivered to Ukraine, but the harsh truth is that this delivery should have arrived not tomorrow, not today, but months ago. The situation on the front is complicated, and the Ukrainian defense lines seem to be on the verge of collapse. Now, what about Israel? Well, it is the second largest beneficiary. Let's take a look. Israel will receive about $25 billion. These funds are primarily aimed at strengthening its defense systems, with a considerable investment in anti-missile technologies and other defensive capabilities. The initial budget allocated for Israel was increased largely due to the Iranian attack with missiles and kamikaze drones. For a long time, Republicans in Congress wanted to approve the aid for Israel separately from the aid to Ukraine, but Biden was clear. If Congress passed a unilateral bill only for aid to Israel, he would veto it. The deal was simple: all or nothing. The third country to be part of this financial support is none other than Taiwan, which faces increasing tensions with China. Taiwan will receive approximately between $10 to $15 billion in assistance. In terms of proportional population and size, it will be Israel and Taiwan who will receive the most military and economic aid, while Ukraine expected to receive much more than what was sent, which was in fact adjusted downwards by the US Congress. Now, what happened and why did it take so long to approve this package? Is it already too late for Ukraine? Let's see. This package, essential for various strategic regions, was in limbo since October, facing strong opposition from key figures and divisions within the Republican Party. The plot thickens with the influence of figures such as former President Donald Trump and the current Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who initially vehemently opposed this type of spending. This was happening while the crisis at the southern border exploded, where Texas challenged the federal government and the Supreme Court over the handling of the crisis. The Republicans' argument was simple. Why give money to Ukraine to stop the Russian invasion if the United States could not stop the invasion of migrants at its southern border? Republicans and President Biden were engaged in a tug-of-war that lasted months. But overnight, the landscape changed drastically, marking a turning point in American politics. What really changed to suddenly have half of the Republicans support the measure? First, it was the Iranian attack on Israel. For the first time in history, Iran dared to attack Israel, setting off alarms in American politics. Could Iran launch such an attack without being backed by Russia and China? Most likely not. Indeed, the US Speaker of the House stated that this package was to put a brake on the Russia-China-Iran axis that had formed, which he himself called the axis of evil. The Iranian attack on Israel politically served President Biden to force Congress to have a vote on aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. As we saw earlier, Biden had anticipated that the package should include all three nations and that he would veto any separate bill. Second, a Ukrainian defeat in sight. It is clear and evident that without US military support, a Ukrainian defeat would be closer than ever. The European Union, seeing that the US Congress would not soon pass the aid, activated and approved another package of 50 billion euros in aid to Ukraine. But this was nowhere near what the US Congress approved. European aid amounted to 50 billion euros, but spread over 4 years, while US aid is until December 2024. The loss of Avdiivka to Russia was a clear wake-up call, as Russia began to break various segments of the Ukrainian front. Moreover, Kyiv faced a major problem, a lack of weaponry and artillery, which meant they didn't even have bullets to repel the advance of the Russians. Alongside this, the US Department of Defense informed the White House that Russia was preparing and activating its entire war machine to withstand a war of attrition. The CIA warned that this year could be the definitive year of Ukraine's defeat if the shipment of arms was paralyzed. And thirdly, there was internal pressure. As the elections approached, many congressmen saw supporting this package as a way to strengthen their image with the electorate. In fact, for the first time, polls show that Biden now has a few points advantage over Trump. About 60 to 70% of Americans continue to support the United States, providing the tools and weapons for Ukraine to resist the Russian invasion. The same Trump who had said he would let Russia do whatever it wants with NATO countries that don't pay their debts, last week said that the survival of Ukraine is vital for US interests. What accounts for Trump's change in attitude? Why didn't he stop Republican Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, from allowing the vote on aid to Ukraine? We don't have a mind reader, only Trump knows why he hasn't actively intervened in the debate on Ukraine. Maybe he's distracted by the start of his criminal trial in New York. Or maybe he was persuaded during his recent conversation with Polish President Andrzej Duda, whom he calls his friend. Or perhaps he calculated that the bill would likely pass even if he opposed it. Or maybe he wants to avoid blame in case Ukraine suffers significant setbacks on the battlefield, to say it wasn't he who let Ukraine be defeated. Whatever the motivation, Trump's silence allowed Congress to have a say in this package. It's also a smart move because if Ukraine ultimately fails to rebound militarily, despite this mega check of $60 billion, Trump could say in November 2024 that he was right, that despite the huge U.S. disbursements, Kyiv can't turn the tide, and it's better to reach a negotiated settlement with Russia. From Ukraine to Taiwan, via Israel, the support of the U.S. with its huge wallet has sent a clear message to adversaries about the ongoing U.S. involvement in various conflict fronts. However, the approval of this package has also revealed the internal dynamics of U.S. politics, where Europe has realized how difficult it is to count on the United States always being there, especially in an election year. And quite rightly so. Indeed, if Ukraine, despite this mega economic aid package, fails to produce results on the ground, it may well be the last.